Managing partner of McNeely Communications. McNeely Communications was created and incorporated after I left ESPN, where I served as a senior executive in public relations and communications. Family didn't want to move from Florida to Bristol, Connecticut, so we decided to carve out a little niche here in Central Florida. And our clients include Bass Pro Shops Orlando, and we work with Mystic Dunes Golf Club and the Arnold Palmer Invitational and the John Deere Classic in Moline, Illinois, just to name a few. And we've done an abundant amount. Well, that's a great question, and clearly your public relations should be in alignment with the company's marketing plan and its overall business objectives. Everything stems from the business objectives. A company has a mission statement, it has specific objectives in a given year or a given quarter, and your marketing and your public relations should be in lockstep. We break through the clutter. We have a tremendous amount of relationships in the media, and I think anyone who knows me, including the interviewer, knows that I'm usually 2 phone calls away from meeting anybody I need to meet anyway. And I think that's a really important skill set in public relations, to have a reputation where a lot of people will return your call. It's okay to have 1,000 people on LinkedIn, but how many will return your call? Those are the questions I think you need to be asking yourself if you're going to go into this very exciting field. I would also say to you that public relations can branch into so many different areas from a career perspective. Sure, you can think of the publicist who works at Universal or Magic Kingdom or the Orlando Magic, providing necessary deadline information to reporters, but you could be working in community outreach or corporate outreach. You could be working in investor relations if you have a business acumen like me. I've worked with a lot of the Disney investor relations people over the years and other places where I've worked. Issue management, crisis. It varies with the constituent, and for example, if you're doing the media relations for a PGA tournament or a putter company, you're going to be working with golf writers and you're going to be working with trade press who are going to write about the tournament or the putter or whatever the case may be. If you're working in a larger realm, for example, retail stores, then you're going to be looking to take a look at all of your stock and see what you can pitch to the apparel people, what you can pitch to the sporting goods people, what you can pitch to the outdoors people in the case of Bass Pro Shops. And you know, you're always trying to innovate. For example, Christmas has not been in vogue in the media in recent years. A lot of companies they don't celebrate Christmas. Holidays become somewhat generic, and I'm not making a political opinion here. It's just the way it is. Well, Bass Pro Shops does a Santa's Land around the holidays for people who do celebrate Christmas and do celebrate the holidays. And what's interesting about that is they've got a very old-fashioned Norman Rockwell-esque kind of Santa's Land with trains and race cars and things for the kids to do while the parents are shopping. I bet you didn't know Bass Pro Shop sells the best fudge in Central Florida. The point I make is, year-round, that store has become a destination store. And if your kids are in sports and you have to buy a big cooler or you have to buy a pop-up tent, it's a great place. See, I'm always selling for my clients. And the point that I make about Bass Pro Shops is that we pitched some of the news media to come out and do their live show. Well, I think it all starts, again, with the business objectives of the company. And what you'll do is you'll tailor your marketing and you'll tailor your public relations plan to promote what is most meaty, if you will, what you can sink your teeth into, what the general public will really be interested in, and more importantly, what the conduit will be interested in. You know, when you think about public relations, if you're working with the press, it's really media relations, and they are a conduit. So you have to convince them that the story is compelling enough for their readers, for the people who read their blogs, for the people that go to their tweet-ups, for the people that watch their telecast. You have to convince them this is important enough to come on over. And that's the real art in public relations. Just because a new team launches in a new city, let's say the Oklahoma City Thunder relocate to Oklahoma City from Seattle where they used to be the Supersonics, just because they've hired a new pretzel vendor does not make it a newsworthy. Well, you know, public relations can have an incredible impact on reputation management. However, it all starts with the brand. It all starts with the C-suite and the executives and what they believe in. And it's that trickle-down effect, so that here's our mission statement, here's our company objectives, here's what we live by. When I worked at ESPN, we used to have a card that we would wear on our belts or around our lanyards, along with our ID, our access ID, and it would have our 5 goals for the year. And these were goals that everybody bought into because all the executives got together and whiteboarded, and you'd start out with 150 goals and you'd streamline it down to 5. You can manage 5 goals. And every day when you wake up in the morning in that particular company, how am I helping goal number 1? How am I helping goal number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5? And if you're not, maybe you're focused on the wrong things. Well, very much the same with public relations. You have priorities, and it's about building out a calendar, being strategic in nature, picking your spots. When I oversaw all of the public relations for motorsports on ESPN, I knew that one of the biggest drag race events is in Gainesville, Florida at the Gator Nationals. One of the biggest auto races in the world is the Indianapolis 500. Another is the Daytona 500. So we would really ramp up in December, January to get all of the press that we could get to kick off our season in February at the Daytona 500 where all the writers are. And then we'd have a second relaunch, if you will, around April, gearing up for the Indianapolis 500. And then before you know it, our focus is back on NASCAR because ESPN would televise the final 17 races of the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. So we're back on NASCAR. So it's really picking your spots, knowing where the influential media are, and going and seeing them and pitching them on what's new. The most important phone calls that I made as the leader of the department was to the producers of the telecasts saying, what do you got for me? My people want to pitch stories to the press. Well, I got this. Now, we did that last year. I got to have something new. What can we reinvent? I remember when we first launched NASCAR, we focused on the fact that we had 5 former Sprint Cup champions on our telecasts. Well, in year 2, our focus was on working moms as pit reporters. Shannon Spake, for example, and now Jamie Little, who's had a child. Year 3, we moved into the production truck, and we really had people get to know the folks who make the bells and whistles and make the telecast so great. And the fact that you have all these people packed like sardines into a truck. On one side you've got graphics, on one side you've got production, and how they get along for 12-hour days during rain delays is beyond me. That's why I'm glad to be in the garage area or in an air-conditioned office somewhere at the racetrack. But that's my background. Oh, nobody likes to talk about their successes. They only want to talk about their failures, right? I was very proud in 2007. We returned after a 6-year hiatus when ESPN got out of NASCAR for a while, and the league went with Fox and NBC and TNT. They missed us so much we came back. Well, we really threw the kitchen sink at public relations. I'm talking about fully integrated social media and traditional media, relationship building. I remember as a young reporter, I have these memories at the Daytona 500 trying to do a network radio feature on the CBS telecast, and I almost needed an act of Congress and a letter from the Vatican to get into the television compound. So having that insight and the fact that the print writers don't care for the broadcasters and there's jealousy and things like that, you know, what we did is I said, we're going to have 2 golf carts at every racetrack, and we are going to bring the reporters into the television compound. We're going to have them join our talent for lunch before the interview, because we all know that when your stomach is full, you're in a good mood. And at the end of the day, we had some pretty good catering. So what we did is we really saturated the motorsports world with motorsports on ESPN. My team was in charge of the whole package: IndyCar, NHRA, and of course NASCAR nationwide, and Sprint Cup, which we were televising, and various other special events. In 2007, we won the League of Communications Professionals' highest award for product launch and for public relations campaign. And in 2008, we repeated the feat. And then in 2009, we were a three-peat. So I was starting to feel like the Michael Jordan of public relations, even though I can't dunk a basketball. And I realized very quickly that if you're going to feel like Michael Jordan, you got to remember that he had Scottie Pippen and John Paxson and Dennis Rodman and Phil Jackson, which meant great support at ESPN for us to do what we did so well. We had great publicists and terrific minds that were nimble enough to say, okay, what can we do? They keep their ear to the ground. They didn't just go to the auto race and hang out with the press. They hang out with our production people to find out, what are we going to have to talk about 6 months from now? And you write a public relations campaign and you think it's the greatest thing on earth, and you realize very quickly it should be evolving. It should be evolving with circumstances that may take place, hiccups along the way, good things that are going on, things that the press are like jumping all over, like, wow, it's a pet rock, we should really write about that. And your focus should be totally on that product that they're really loving, while trying to use that product to elevate the ones they're not loving too much. For example, NASCAR, no problem. Indianapolis 500, no problem. NHRA, a little bit more of a challenge to sell. So when you have opportunities to prop up a given brand, you use them. So on a particular weekend where we would do our weekly motorsports on ESPN release, we would always lead with the priority, which was most always NASCAR. Quick paragraph with a link to more. Second thing would be IndyCar. Third thing would be drag racing. But on a week when you don't have IndyCar or NASCAR and you're managing those relationships, you want everybody happy, you lead with the NHRA and you do a teleconference and you make a big deal about it, because then your other partners aren't mad at you because they don't have a race going on anyway, and you've used that opportunity to elevate something. So it's a lot about leveraging and picking your spots, and really I believe whiteboarding. I believe it all starts with, frankly, I know it's old school, but I think it all starts with a legal pad with a line drawn down the middle, listing all of the attributes that you want to pitch, narrowing them down to 3 or 4 really good pitches to start with, and see how it all evolves. And then as you have successes, you should have a list somewhere contained in your public relations plan. You should have a list of all of the key dates. If you're selling consumer electronics or best available screen, you better have the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas on there, or the SAP conference in Orlando if it's computers, whatever the case may be. Then, as you have successes, it becomes kind of like the NBA schedule. Once the game takes place, you put down the score, how you did. And you still have dates with future games coming up. And you can change those dates. And you can say, we're doing really well on this property, why don't we move to something else? And and then you have budgets come up. You got to manage your budget, you got to manage your P&L. Let's say you have X amount of dollars to fund a whole public relations campaign for a season, and someone mismanaged and you spent more than you anticipated in the first quarter. Well, you're going to have to cut back on travel in the second quarter because you have to make your number at the end of the year. Always remember, public relations is a cost center. It's not a profit center. Sales, they get to do whatever they want to do because they're selling and they're earning. Public relations, you're showing your value every day, and you better manage your budgets very well.